Why do I need extreme automation right now? Automation with AI can help you automate this, not that, so you can augment your business's core strengths, supplement weaknesses, and empower the people at the heart of your business to work better together. To sustain resiliency and adaptability, a smarter business requires extreme automation.
Hello, and welcome to Getting Started with Hyperautomation. Pivot with AI-driven RPA tools. Today, we come together to explore how automation is helping evolve business processes and IT operations to create end-to-end experiences that cut across boundaries, harnessing data from the entire organization to provide seamless, real-time, context-rich experiences to your customers. I am Namrata Kapoor, Head of Cloud Integration Business Marketing at IBM Asia Pacific, and I will be your moderator for this event. We have an extremely interesting and hopefully engaging session planned for you, starting with a use case showcase of how automation is perceived and implemented in an organization to a robust panel on hyperautomation. We will then follow this up with a short session on RPA, robotic process automation, and how AI-driven RPA can deliver the right business results. And finally, round it all up with a demonstration and a Q&A session where you can put forth all your questions. So, without further ado, let's get started. I will now invite our speaker, Anthai, Digital Business Automation Executive, IBM Asia Pacific, to kickstart by sharing a business use case story about the ENN Group. Now, during COVID-19 outbreak, the entire ENN Group employees were focused on a work-from-home model, which of course meant that there was an increased pressure on the IT help desk with requests like VPN permission, downloading, or password change. So, how did ENN handle this challenge? Antha, over to you for the story.
Thank you, Namrata. Indeed a privilege and honor to be with you today. I'd like to take some time to share with you a case study of an existing customer that uses our RPA together with our chatbot to help them automate their employees' IT services. We call this hyperautomation. The ENN Group is a company that operates in more than 200 cities and in China in over 20 provinces. They have also offices in Southeast Asia, China, North America, Africa, and of course, ASEAN region. As a group, they have close to about 50,000 employees, and they are one of the largest energy companies in China. Given the size of this company, you can imagine the number of operations that they have to do every day, especially for their help desk in times of the new normal. So this case study kind of hit the customer during the COVID days, and China was one of the first countries to be impacted. A lot of their customer, partner, and employee have great issues trying to get back to their offices. And every day as they operate, they have all kinds of help desk issues. Things like, for example, managing VPN permission, looking at application access, downloading, and even password resets. These are repeated type of inquiries that overwhelms the help desk every day. So together with the technology that we provided for RPA, alongside with the AI engine that we provide with our chatbot, we have at times at peak 1,000 to 2,000 repeated tasks every day that has to be completed. This is a solution that we have put forward to our customer. Their employee can submit IT help desk ticket via a chatbot. The chatbot literally extracts keywords, leveraging on the natural language understanding, interprets it, classify the complaints or the requests, and then through machine learning, delegate the task to a robotic action where no integration is required to fetch information, data, or records at the back end, and then helping the customer access those systems of record and push out the information to the customer to self-service. This is the type of capability today that we can kind of automate a lot of these help desk operations for this very large customer. And they do this at scale. Today, more than 2,000 to 3,000 tasks on average are completed through 70 use cases using IBM automation capability, reducing their manual work by at least 60%. And at the last count, a few months ago, their FTE was reduced by about 12 people from the help desk operation. We hope you find this case study interesting, applicable for many of your operations today. And in the later presentation and discussion that my colleague will take you through, we hope that you will find more useful insight using hyperautomation as part of your journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthai, for that session and for sharing with us the journey that ENN Group is going on. Indeed, a business benefit of reducing work time by 60% is a strong use case for having and achieving pure hyperautomation in your organization. And that gives us a perfect segue into our next session, which is actually a panel discussion on hyperautomation and the potential impact it has on businesses in Asia Pacific. For this panel, we have with us today George Verghese, VP of Quality and GIU Automation at IBM Global Business Services, and Malcolm Ong, the RPA Automation Leader at Asia Pacific IBM. Thank you for joining us today, gentlemen. All right, let's get started here. My first question is really to George. George, what are your observations in the market regarding automation, and how have clients evolved? What do you see in your interactions with the businesses on what are the expectations from automation?
Yeah, thank you, Namrata. Faced with the pandemic, firms in Asia Pacific had to do things that once seemed very impossible and sometimes even overnight. COVID-19 affected Asia Pacific first, so we do expect this region also to emerge from this first. However, much of the success of how quickly and how well companies will harness technologies to enable their workforce in the new normal and build platforms that will differentiate them, that's going to be the key dependency. But with pandemic still being a reality, money is still scarce and budgets are difficult to come by. So that also means how you take advantage of some of the investments you already have done. So 2021 will be a year where every company doubles down on technology-driven experiences, products, operations, and platforms. Now, let's talk about what's going to happen to our workforce. Next year, we will see a changed workplace. We expect about permanently at least 25 to 40% of the workforce to permanently work from home. And with all of them at home, you would need RPA or other technologies like virtual assist behind the scenes to help them make productive and add value to their work. Now, this is about people. What about our clients? What do we do in such an environment? As companies extend work from home, airlines reduce routes, and health concerns prevail, sellers will need to adapt their methods and building of new competencies to succeed in a largely remote and digital environment. Marketers will need to adopt the use of chatbot and virtual assistant technologies to scale more automated conversations and offer more personalized experiences to their buyers. Now, as this continues and our buyer engagement more data is collected, AI can then surface patterns and then guide the sellers to the next best action and identify the buyer's preferred channel. So what's the expectation from automation, and what do businesses really want to focus in the short term and long term? Now, organizations in every region and industry are automating at least some business processes. However, they have not been very successful as per our IBM IBV Global Survey on this topic. And adoption of RPA in the initial years has all been about moving data quicker with less manual intervention than actually create new thresholds of value. But as advances in AI, robotics, machine learning, and platforms enable businesses to redefine processes, workplace automation is expected to provide significant opportunities for improvements in performance and efficiency. So, organizations that employ intelligent automation in the next 3 years expect to grow revenues about 23% better than companies who don't, increased profitability with a 40% variance to people who don't, and improve the customer experience with a 45% gap to their peers. So, adopting intelligence to digitize operations will create a much more resilient and adaptable operating model for companies, which will impact the customer experience.
Thank you, George, for sharing with us the expectations that most businesses have from automation and what we are seeing in the market right now. We'll go to Malcolm next. Malcolm, I have a question on what you're seeing in the Asia Pacific market. What are the specific challenges or even considerations that businesses have when they start going on this automation journey?
Well, that's a quick question. The recent report shows that the Asia Pacific's automated market is expected to reach a US of 123 million by 2027, from US of 70 million in 2019. And the market is expected to grow with a percentage of 7.5 from 20 to 2027. Right. In today's digital environments, companies are looking new ways to create new business model, deliver new services at a lower cost. The need to drive automations is even greater right now, given the uncertainties of COVID-19's pandemic. And IDC predicts that by 2025, AI-powered enterprise will see a 100% increase in knowledge worker productivities, resulting in a shorter reaction time, greater product innovation success, and improved customer satisfaction, right? And one of the biggest challenges here is to gaining the support from executive is very important, as one of the most challenging to do is right now is to gain real sustainable change within an organization. Automations can be a very powerful tool to create consistent delivery result, setting acceptable standards for operation, right? And this is where leaders can play an important role in driving automations by start laying out a vision for why automations matters to the future. Next, explain how this will be a positive development for their employee. And lastly, paint a pictures that help them to imagine the positive improvements of automations to improve their work experience.
Thanks, Malcolm. Can you expand a little bit more on the use cases for automation that you're seeing in the industries?
That's right. So I will share about two use cases over here. First, automation in customer service and support. AI assistant chatbots are available 24/7 to answer customers' questions, direct them to the products they want, and even cross or upsell. If the customer's requirements can't be answered, the AI assistants can get them in touch with the right persons when combined with intelligent scheduling. This is where customers' questions and needs are addressed immediately, helping them to navigate their individual experience. As such, companies were able to resolve customer service requests without human interventions when it's not needed. Second benefit, improve the customer's retentions. Allow the customer service representatives to focus on building strong customer relationship. And lastly, cross-sales and upsales. And the second top use case that we see in the automations right now is procure to pay automated workflow. With the automated workflow and documents filing, The entire process from procurements to payments can be automated and digitized. This process can be completed with compliance to the company policy with recommended vendors from pre-approval list. The approval process can be digitized, automate to streamline and speed up the process. Then issuing purchase order, receiving invoice, and matching invoice, and lastly, issuing payment, all can be complete with minimum human interventions. These automations will definitely help to speed up the procurement process, increase information accuracy, and lastly, reduce processing costs.
Thanks, Malcolm. George, with the context that Malcolm has set and the introduction on automation that you did, let's now move to strategy and execution. How does a business become future proof? How do they stay current? So, what are you seeing for organizations, and how would you advise them once they want to start on this journey to hyperautomation?
Namrata, very, very good question. Let me start with painting a future vision on the new ways of working. So, pivoting at a moment's notice, scaling up or down, rethinking how work gets done, it's what defines your business as resilient. Automation enables your entire organization to be always on, optimizing the delivery of goods and services to provide seamless continuity in dynamic markets. With a diverse set of automation solutions, companies can take their digitization and automation journey to the next level, where they can automate more types of work at greater speed and lower cost. So what do we do here? There are three sets of key high-level actions that can help guide your organization to the era of what I call the enterprise-wide automation. First, digitize work, and then infuse AI. Now, this goes beyond automating tasks and requires re-engineering of processes to create the new intelligent workflows. Using AI technologies and cognitive solutions to reveal patterns that otherwise would have gone undetected and use the insights to enable responsiveness. AI systems, as we all know, consume data much faster than humans do, and they can also learn from these interactions and respond accordingly. We also end up orchestrating new operating models. In the new normal, even with a lot of these technologies, it's complex for businesses to gain integration, transparency, and speed of insights across processes and operation. So what do? By co-creating and modernizing workflows, businesses can be more predictive, adaptive, and automated with real-time data by applying AI and other emergent technologies. Intelligent workflows connects the dots and the pieces, taking traditional structures you had in your organization of siloed static tasks and to integrated, transparent, and flexible workflows, freeing up people's time to do better things. And then you got to prepare your people to drive, to improve business continuity and outcomes through the right combination of people and technology. With more employees working remotely, companies need to reevaluate business processes and labor models. Striking the right balance between human and digital labor can build a stronger, flexible, yet more engaged workforce. These three key steps will ensure how you can scale to hyperautomation in your organizations.
So, George, if businesses were to get started on this journey and take this path that you have been discussing, what are the elements or solutions that can actually help them? And really, how does IBM come into the play here?
Yeah, interesting question, Namrata. The market for automation across the enterprise continues to expand exponentially. Automation solutions form the basis of innovation and client value. This results in the need for extreme automation that is pervasive across and within all of our service capabilities. IBM defines extreme automation as the delivery of digitally transformed, technology driven IT processes and operations that are pervasive across the organization. Although automation has become fairly common these days, success by no means is assured. There are certain key practices that we recommend that we have seen most successful companies deploy. These findings can be applied to organizations at all stages of their automation journey. Prioritizing automation. Organizations that are just launching their automation programs would benefit from making automation a strategic priority right from the outset. This includes defining clear strategic objectives for automation, having a senior executive sponsor for the program, beginning automation work with a comprehensive understanding of all the benefits and costs, and making the automation more as an enterprise-wide effort rather than focusing on just a function or a unit. The next is on focusing on roles and people. For example, take the case of IT. They are a very involved partner in doing automation along with us. So making them and involving them as early and possible in all future efforts would help. Another example would be to look at workforce management. This includes an assessment of the skills that are currently in the organization, a lot of which could become obsolete, and the new roles for the workforce that accompany these future state automated processes. Third is about expanding ownership and adoption. Expanding the governance and buy-in on automation is of key importance. Organizations can benefit from encouraging a truly enterprise-wide program. Structuring automation programs to be technological neutral will allow organizations to keep pace with the rapid advances being made and not having to change technologies every time a new thing comes in the marketplace. And finally, it's about preparing for the future of work. While automation offers significant opportunity to organizations, the implications for and the impact on future of work are substantial, and especially on the need to transform an organization's culture and processes, as well as to reskill and retrain employees to get the full value of intelligent automation. Enterprises with innovative and collaborative workforces are better equipped to respond to such a changing landscape. If we can tie all of these points together, that's when we get the benefits of our journey to hyperautomation.
Thanks for laying that out, George. It's really important to see all that's available, and then, of course, for each organization to select where they are, understand where they are, and where do they need to be. So, Malcolm, with the context that George has helped set, let's go a bit deeper into what we are here to discuss, the robotic process automation. Can you talk a little bit more about that, please?
That's a good question. So, as what George has mentioned about RPA, RPA stands for Robotic Process Automation. It's a software that mimics human actions across multiple digital touchpoints. We often refer to the software as a bot, thinking of the bot as your digital worker, and they work side by side with humans to do repetitive, mandate tasks that we do every single day, allowing us to focus on higher level business value where only the humans are equipped to provide. And some of the RPA benefits are increased productivities, complete the task in a faster time, reduce error, that increase accuracy, optimize operations costs, and lastly, is able to scale at demand when the business is required. In 2020, IBM has its own RPA platform, the WDG's automations, and it allowed business users to create automation in the local environments with more than 600 drag and drop commands without the needs of IT. These bots can be run as attendant bots, mainly we are focusing on the front office automations, and unattended bots for the back-end office automations. Customers also have the options to deploy their environments on cloud or on-premise according to their requirement.
Thank you, Malcolm, for helping explain the critical gap that RPA can fill in, and to George for his insights on hyperautomation and the journey that businesses are taking today. We will now move into our next segment of the session. We have with us Michael Lim, Worldwide Integration Executive, IBM Automation. Now, Michael will be diving into AI-driven RPA, how organizations like yours can automate more business and IT processes at scale while achieving faster ROI with AI-driven RPA. Thank you for joining us, Michael, and over to you.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you, audience, for participating in this session. And this session is kind of near and dear to me because I think about the amount of work that I have to do every day. I would say that, even through the pandemic that we've been dealing with and the change of work, of doing remote work, we've always been challenged with the amount of workload that we have. And this solution is really talking about a solution to really address some of the workload that people are dealing with by using digital workers. These are powered workers that are powered by AI technology and RPA technology working together to help address some of the ever-growing workload problems that we're facing with work. So in this session, I'm going to talk about 3 core topics. 1, what is this challenge that I'm talking about? And if you're not familiar with, hopefully I can kind of address what we're seeing in the market as we start talking to our customers and our partners, looking at, what are the common challenges that people are dealing with. 2, I want to talk about a solution of what we see of using digital workers to actually go and help augment some of the workload that people are dealing with, or the challenge of the workload that they're trying to manage. And digital workers is a new piece of technology that actually will go and address some of the repetitive types of work streams that people have. Also, we see a lot of use cases around self-service and customer service where companies are leveraging these technologies to help improve workload management across different people, but vice versa, provide the high level of service that customers are expecting to have. And then I want to talk about a little bit of IBM's approach and the different types of technologies that we provide that is powered by AI and a technology called robotic process automation technology that works together to go and augment some of the work streams that people are working today. So with that, let's talk about the challenge. This is a common challenge that we've seen, and we did a study here at IBM looking at the different types of work streams people are doing and how many hours a day they're actually working. And interesting enough, in the survey, as we started talking to our customers, not even just during the pandemic, but prior to the pandemic, but we see an ever-growing number of work streams that people have to do. The number of hours that they're working on a given day has increased almost by 30%. And it seems like it's going to continually increase as the years go by. Interesting enough, people, because they're working so much, there's not a lot of opportunity to learn new skills. As we know, where companies are trying to digitally change or modernize their infrastructure, they're not having the time to actually learn these new skills of what they're going to be competitive into the market. And last but not least, because there's so much work, like how do you prioritize? How do you know which work needs to get done first versus second? Now, a lot of people have looked at technologies and solutions to address this, and they've tried to find different ways. There's workflow technologies, there's business rule technologies, and those technologies are great when your business is actually working in a common workplace. But as you're working remotely, there's a lot of gaps in the way that organizations are structured today, which means that they're going to need some assistant to actually help them address this different types of work. So IBM introduced a product called Watson Assistant. It's a great tool that goes out. It provides you a way that you can have an interaction with the customer or the person that you're working with on providing either customer service or employee self-service to address different types of problems. The technology is built leveraging our IA frameworks and our technologies to actually go and understand what people are saying through natural language processing, analyzing the different patterns that could be doing, and then basically providing execution steps to go and solve the problems. But interesting enough, a lot of those things are somewhat scripted. But there's a lot of times that people are asking for things that require you to make changes to different systems or things that are in your infrastructure that requires an integration that to make that actually happen. And most of the integration could be through old backend systems. It could be through technologies that don't have robust APIs. And the development effort to take a Watson assistant, which is a digital worker, to go and help a person gets very, very costly and expensive. Just over the summer, IBM made a big investment to acquire a technology called WDG Automation. It's an RPA technology, or robotic process automation technology, that enables you to digitize access to these different systems without having to go and write a bunch of APIs. We do integration through the user experience. So as a person looks at entering information into a specific system, you can actually have a robot do that. And so with Watson Assistant being able to go and collaborate to understand the ask of what the customer needs, and WDG to perform the actions, now you have a way to provide that integration without having heavy expenditures and cost to go and provide that unified experience for customer service and employee self-service. What the RPA solution that we have acquired over the summer gives you is a cloud-based service that enables you to create what we call unattended bots or attended bot capabilities. And that's the ability to trigger based off of an action, maybe a trigger based off of a Watson Assistant request, or an attended bot could be a remote desktop system that could sit on your desktop, and I can fire off a robot to actually do certain different types of work for me. It provides full capabilities of OCR, which means I'm able to extract content from documents to be able to perform tasks, and it can execute at a concurrent rate. So now I don't need to buy a bunch of different bots to be able to do that execution. I can actually do that with one machine that runs several different bots. And as the bots are performing, it produces dashboards. So what it'll do is it'll say, Watson will actually provide the customer interaction. It will execute the work, and it'll give you a summary of how did that interaction happen. Did that actually provide a positive experience for my customer? Did it answer the employee self-service request or not? And if it didn't, with AI, it starts learning new behaviors and identifies areas to address some of the gaps that maybe people didn't think about over time. Think of it as a self-learning digital assistant that will actually help you address some of this workload problems. Here's a good example of how we're taking machine learning and natural language processing with RPA and solving a problem. So in this particular example, a hiring manager wants to go and put in a request for a new job post that they want to go and do, where they'll talk to Watson, make the request, and explain to them exactly what are the skills that they're looking for in that particular candidate. What that actually does, it will go in, collect that information, give the recommendation of the right resource manager, human resource manager to address that problem, and what are the back-end systems that person needs to do. Maybe the back-end systems to create the job post or post a job post or collect all the resumes. Well, instead of a human having to do that work, you can actually have a robot do that work. And this is really where AI and using robotic technology can come together to act as a human and be able to augment some of the work streams that people actually do. We see this as really common. I always find the biggest challenges that we see with customers that are using technologies like Watson Assistant to actually go and do self-service, the biggest barrier has always been around how do I integrate with existing systems and provide a low-code approach to go and drive that interaction of what happens between someone that's actually interacting with the end user to actually performing that work. And we find a plethora of different types of work streams that people actually can do with this technology working together. We think that Watson Assistant, tied with our RPA capabilities, will help you deal with this ever-growing problem of work that we're all seeing over time, where now we think that 40% of what people do today can actually be done with a digital assistant that will actually help you. So, really our value proposition is how can we look at this solution to actually go and address some of the work challenges that you have, and we'll show you a demo of how this works together. All right, let's go through the demo.
Thank you, Michael. For our audience, what better way to see how all of this is practically leveraged within organizations? We have a 4-minute demonstration by Zach Silverstein. He's the WDG Automation Program Leader, and he's put together this small demo for us. And after this, our subject matter experts will be taking up questions that you have been sending over. So let's have a look at the demo now.
Hi everyone, my name is Zach Silverstein, and today I'm going to walk you through a demo of how we can utilize Watson Assistant and IBM RPA with WDG Automation to provide extremely fast automation with a high-quality virtual assistant front end. In this demo, we're going to take the role of a user who's having issues with their workstation. They need to create a ticket. However, the ticketing legacy application is only available on an internal system that the user does not have direct access to. Here we can see the user's portal where they're able to see their account's overview and some high-level details. I, as a user, may want to navigate to support and reach out. However, it's painful for both the user and the enterprise. They may need to wait in a queue to chat with a representative, and from the enterprise's perspective, it's a non-optimal use of support resources to handle simple tickets. Fixing and re-engineering a native application is extremely expensive, technically intensive, and requires a large overhaul and project plan to fix. By leveraging both the IBM RPA Suite and Watson Assistant, we have the seamless integration point. The drag and drop Watson Assistant is available on all of the pages in the bottom right-hand corner, and we can start it right away. Now you'll see I'll begin talking to that Watson Assistant chatbot. Hello, I'm the IBM RPA-powered Watson Virtual Assistant. What's your name? And we'll start interfacing within a natural user language interface manner. Thanks for that, Zach. What can we help you with? I need some help, right? Well, we'll start off very simple. The chatbot is working, and it's going to capture a couple pieces of information it needs from us, right? Can I get your last name? We'll provide some of the information that it's asking. Next, we'll see it interacting again in that natural language manner, asking for other information such as the email address. After we provide that, it needs a little bit more information to know what to associate it. And this is using Watson Assistant's native AI capabilities. I'll say my laptop won't turn on. So it says, thanks. So it looks like your issue is a broken laptop. Would you like us to create a support ticket for Zach Silverstein and update you via zachary.silverstein@ibm.com, that email provided? So when I type yes and confirm this, what this powered chatbot is going to do is it's going to kick off a WDG automation. That payload will be picked up by a WDG bot running on a virtual machine. It will pick up that payload, fill out our legacy ticketing application, submit it, and then scrape the response back. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. So I'll say yes, and now let's look at what our system looks like. So here's our Windows VM that our chatbot is communicating to, and what we will see here is that that ticket is created. Our bot goes through that process, issues the ticket, scrapes that generated ticket ID, and finishes the process. Now when we navigate back, we can confirm that that ticket has been created. So in summary, what we have seen with Watson Assistant and IBM RPA with WDG Automation is a couple of key takeaways. The first is we have a digital platform that takes in employees' self-service requests through Watson Assistant. We perform those actions and tasks to that internal system in a controllable manner by WDG Automation. We provide a high level of customer service through that sleek, responsive interface, and then we augment those users to get the functional actions they need when they need it through an AI natural language system.
Okay, and this brings us to the live Q&A portion. We've got our subject matter experts on standby. To all our audience, thank you for joining us today. And you would find the question panel at the top right-hand corner. Just go ahead and put in your questions and we'll start taking them on. While we address your questions, let me also point out that we've got a poll that will come up for you, and just take a couple of minutes and answer that poll. And we will also put up that poll for our experts to comment on and discuss the findings. All right, with that, let's get started and take the first question from our audience. And this is quite apt with the demo just being presented, but Malcolm, let me bring this to you, right? We spoke about Watson Assistant, and the question is that it seems like a conversational AI. So basically, we are leveraging chatbot intelligence agent. Is that right? And how does that interact with the RPA tool piece?
That's right. I think the demonstrations videos have shown very clearly how the Watson assistants work hand in hand with the WDG's RP over here. So in our WDG's automations, we also have our native chatbots built inside there, but at the same time, we also able to integrate with the Watson assistant. So for the demonstration is that the customers having inquiry, instead of going through sending a human assistant to answer all the query, the customers actually can go to the portal and send the questions to the chat box itself. And the chat box have the NLP capability to understand what the requirements and understand what is the challenges of the customer is facing right now. From there, it actually trigger the bot to get the necessary activity to be executed by the RPA. Once the RPA has completed the task, it actually went back to the chat box to respond back to the user. So that will definitely helps to increase the customer satisfactions, and also we actually address to the issue much more in a faster time.
All right, great. Anthai, I have a question for you on this. We discussed about the applicability of RPA. Now, if we look at specific industries, let's say in this instance, let's look at finance department, right? There is a lot of transactional work that happens in that department. How would we use RPA to change operations or resources or even security? Is that impacted when we bring in RPA?
Yes, thank you, Namrata. In fact, one of the key users of RPA is the finance department. And in the past, a lot of time, finance have to eyeball their finance reconciliation between spreadsheet, between ERPs and financial ledgers. And this is a very tedious process that they go through every day, every month end, or every quarter end. A lot of customers today are relying on what I call digital technologies, such that the eyeballing, the matching or unmatching of records can be done automatically first by the RPA technology. We call them digital assistants sometimes. And then the exceptions that are not handled, that cannot be reconciled because of rounding errors, partial payment, non-payment, etc. These are then picked up by the human to do further analysis and to see whether they can find another way to reconcile them over time. And this greatly speed up the workload of people in working side by side to improve their productivity and let people handle more of the exception, more of the insight, and more of the detailed analysis. So this is that corporations that we see going out in the markets today, where a lot of these digital capabilities are helping human side by side.
Perfect. Great to see we've George back. I think we lost him in the middle a bit. Such is the state of work from home. But George, let me come to you with a question here, right? We've been talking about, and I think this also applies to some of the poll questions, and we'll come to that here. But when you look at Asia Pacific and you look at all the organizations and businesses that you worked with, what does the current state of maturity that the companies are in with respect to automation, does that impact their ability to realize benefits or even drive growth in the organization?
Hey, thanks, Namrata. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, we are fine.
All right, terrific. Look, organizations typically, those who have embarked on the journey on automation are divided into three categories. We have ones with low maturity, which are less prepared for what we call as the future of work. That means to work along with employees and the hybrid workforce together. And they generally feel anxious or threatened by digital workers. They have trouble communicating change, and they really don't talk much about automation in their org. Even if they do it in small, isolated, single processes, primarily focused on efficiency gains or sometimes just to manage overflow. And usually these are small organizations with much lower revenues. The medium maturity ones are better prepared. They understand what it needs from an organizational change perspective. And but they still are not, I would say, absolutely ready in terms of still working with their people and having digital workers along with them and even taking decisions from digital workers. So while their automation today is primarily focused on efficiency, they probably in the future could go to doing more things like revenue generation and along with cost reduction. But on the other hand, the high maturity ones, they see great effects of automation, and they are prepared in terms of the future of work. Their organizations have driven the culture change needed. People are being reskilled, retrained with the future technologies. And they're using automation not just to drive efficiency gains, but also driving customer experience, which is driving revenue growth. And they continue to expand the use of intelligent automation technologies as they grow. And that primarily makes a big difference. The ones with high maturity typically would be seeing revenue growth and profitability roughly in the 40 to 50% range, higher than their peers and who haven't taken up the same effort. And from a customer experience standpoint, in the 35 to 40% range. So significant benefits coming up, driven by the maturity and the ability of organization to look at the future and get themselves ready to gain benefits from it.
Thanks, George. And in fact, we put up a poll for the audience. And for those who haven't found it or yet to answer, please have a look at the right top side. You'll find a poll section. The question that we were talking about, the maturity, was, where the starting point is, where are most of the organizations in the maturity stage? And we asked a question to the audience as to what percentage of your transaction work is automated today. And right now, we find almost 62% are saying that they are less than 25% of the work is actually automated. So let me come to Anthai on this. Anthai, do you find that surprising, or is it in sync with what we're seeing in the rest of the market as well?
Although there is a very hot market now on RPA, these technologies has kind of only been in the infancy stage, because a lot of people are just starting pilot. Some are still at the stage of what we call consultancy study. And not many, I would say, people have actually gone at scale. And it's only some of the largest enterprise that have started this journey at scale, right? A lot of them are still starting with maybe 1-5 bots kind of journey. And we believe that with growing understanding, with the greater pressures on productivity, more and more people will find that this technology is quite affordable. It's kind of scaled very quickly. You can do kind of quick projects without much risk, because the implementation time is usually very short, in a matter of weeks, and project risks are typically low. And once they understand that this is a productivity enabler, just like you use Excel to automate your work, this tool will help you automate beyond Excel without the need for integration. So it's not surprising, again, to see that a lot of people have still a lot more to do in this area for automation.
So, Anthai, just on that, we have a question which talks about, what are the pitfalls to avoid if you're looking to deploy RPA or AI chatbot? So you mentioned about how easy it is, but what could be some of the challenges, and how does organizations go around that?
Well, a lot of time, people may just go in on a point requirement without looking at a bigger picture. And usually, a pitfall is usually you go into an automation where it may not be of the best value, and you really want to kind of scout through your entire enterprise or your universe of use cases first before you start a RPA program. And this is where a bit of time to do what we call discovery workshop, a little bit of botathon and some investment by your vendor like IBM, for example, to help you. Some proof of concept kind of engagement might be necessary to help you socialize larger group of people, especially users that know their pain point, not just necessary IT. And this will probably get you a better ROI, a better scale to start, and also a greater socialization on at the management level, why this is strategic and sometimes survival for many organizations, right? So these are the steps that we will typically encourage our customers, what we call signatures process to excellence in the RPA or automation journey.
Okay, all right, great. Malcolm, let me come to you on a question. We've got a specific question around manufacturing industry, right? And I know during our panel, we discussed a little bit on that, but could you share some examples of how do we leverage this specifically in the manufacturing industry, maybe a couple of use cases?
Yes, definitely. So when you talk about manufacturing, I think one of the key here is to make sure that the supplier have the enough of a product to actually support to the demand. And this is where we come to the ERP systems, right? So a lot of stuff here is that when we have a new request of the products and the sales operations people will manually key in the request in the ERP system, log in, and from the ERP system, they actually go through and provide them with the right necessary products to deliver. Whether, first of all, check whether is that a product available, when can the products to be delivered, and check on the customer information. And all this is all done within the ERP system. And looking in terms like the company of the manufacturing, they have to deal with thousands of parts a day, right? And the RPA actually can come into the pictures. They actually go through the list of requests, log into the system like ERP to do the necessary information, put it into the request of the ERP system. And the ERP systems will act accordingly and come back with the right informations. End of the day, the ERP will provide the list. Yes, we can able to deliver this part at this time, at this pricing. We have this information ready for the customer. Can the customers ready to issue a PO from there? And this is how the rest of the process can be actually continue from here. And what we can see in over here is the RPA can help the company to achieve in the faster speed, right? Reduce the human error while they're doing the entry. That is increasing the accuracy, right? And the last thing here is that we actually can freeze up all this mandate tasks from the sales operations guys doing the data entry. They actually can go and focus much more on creativity works and also doing some validation in terms of the process. I hope that helps.
Absolutely. So just before we go into a couple of other questions, just for an audience, we've been talking about the RPA piece. There are a couple of assets. There is a free trial that you can get access to and see how all of this really works for your specific use cases. So these are available on the chat window as well, so you can have a look at it and download this in your own time. Let me go on to the next question. And George, we're looking at the poll right now, right? And the second poll that we had asked from the audience was, what do you see is the primary value of automation? And we all know that automation is a larger bucket in itself, right? In the poll, we see that most of our audience said that an increased capacity or enhanced productivity. And I think this really points in the direction of the overall value that they see automation drive. How do you relate to this with the rest of the discussions that you're having? And, apart from RPA, and I'll follow this with another question, apart from RPA, what other automation capabilities can help deliver these values?
Yeah, thanks, Namrata. And look, in today's day with COVID around, money being scarce, like I said earlier, budgets are tight. So first thing on a lot of CIOs' minds or CTOs' minds is on driving efficiency, cost reduction. That's primarily. So not unusual to see where people are focusing on. But the fact remains, while I talked about maturity about organizations, this is the time where you got to use technology and how you use technology in order to adapt your organization, develop disrupting digital platforms, processes, and driving great customer experience makes the difference on will you be there in the future and will you go ahead of your competition or not? That's what's going to make the difference. So yes, you start off with your cost takeout, but the fact remains that a lot of people are focusing now on driving customer experience, or for that matter, great customer service during these periods when how do you do it when you actually can't physically meet up with people, or for that matter, how do you drive efficiency of operations, or how do you get your people to be efficient at this period of time when 70-80% of your workforce is working from home, and how do you keep them occupied, motivated, make sure mental health is easy, and those are key things that our people are driving besides this, so and hence this ties into your next question saying that, hey, what else do I use besides RPA? The fact that RPA, is like we said, it's a lot about what you can do with bots to provide help with mundane recovering activities, making your workforce focused on driving more complex and higher value tasks. But at the same point, when you take technologies such as AI, IoT, blockchain, 5G, and if you take all of these and if you apply these along with RPA, a lot of those will significantly drive further enablement. And that is where the difference between foundational automation, where you're working in an RPA mode with basic tasks and activity-based automation, to how do you get to advanced automation where you bring humans and bots together to integrate multiple systems across an enterprise, and then how do you support more complex processes and using advanced automation and even take care of unstructured data, along with machine learning, natural language processing, and analytics that you look at it. Again, this helps you drive more complex decision making as well. And then you get into intelligent automation where you use AI, where things that you do over time, AI helps understands the trends of it, sees what gives you the best results, and then suggests those actions to you as the next best action, be it whether you're talking to your client now over the phone because you can't meet them, but you understand how do you make the best personalized offering to him so that you can sell your product based on whatever it has seen over time, or based on your discussions with him, etc. And then finally, when you talk about enterprise automation, it also includes infrastructure automation, things like the Ansible automation that comes up with IBM's Red Hat OpenShift platform. That along with the processes and the end-to-end processes along with infrastructure automation drives the enterprise-wide automation. So a ton of things you can use, but each brings its own stage of benefits, costs, and you need your organization to be mature enough to take benefits of it.
Thanks for that, George. And And it's a great way to look for the audience to understand the roadmap. It's not about a big bang. It's about scaling up so that you and your organization can actually realize the benefits that automation in totality can bring to you. It's the path towards hyperautomation, like we say. I know we're almost at the top of the hour, and before we go there, there are a few more assets that we have put up for you. Again, you'll be able to access this in the chat window. But let me just summarize. Let me just talk about one of the pieces that we had shared with you earlier. And Anta, we briefly flashed something around IBM Cloud Pak for automation. Could you share with our audience how does RPA fit into that, and what exactly does Cloud Pak for automation bring to the audience?
Right, thank you, Namrata. In fact, this is very exciting. Cloud Pak for automations comes with a suite of capability. We call this RPA++ in the past. And what it does is that it does have capability for workflow, both structured and unstructured case management. It does content management for static content as well as dynamic content, part of our FileNet, as well as our CMOD family of product. It also comes together with our rules management system, or ODM, including the analytical part of it called ADS for prescriptive, as well as what we call analytical rules. And then last but not least, a lot of these capabilities are now infused with AI, machine learning, and advanced capture solution. We are pleased to announce that the RPA now is a part of our Cloud Pak entitlement. So therefore, any of our customers today that wants to expand their entitlement for Cloud Pak, you can use it for RPA as well as new customers that wants to come on board for RPA. You can go to our Cloud Pak and then purchase the right, what we call entitlement, and revolve your entitlement over time with other capability. And all these capabilities that I talk about called RPA++ are pre-integrated with the RPA per se, so that you can really have a peace of mind in having just one single part number for many capabilities over time. Whether you start off with an RPA journey first, or you start off with the plus capability first. So this makes life easier for our customer to enjoy greater entitlement with what we call both AI-infused, cloud-ready type of environment that the entire RPA, as well as a Cloud Pak today, is made available for you.
Thanks for that, Anthai. And thank you to our panelists, George, Malcolm, for participating and sharing their thoughts. With this, we bring our webinar to an end. Reminder to the audience that we've shared a number of assets. Please go ahead and access those. If you have any questions, you can drop your email address here, or you can reach out to us through any of those through our chat panel. And I'd also like to remind you that this session will be available on demand as well on our platform, so you will receive a link to that as well. So with that, thank you once again to everyone, and we wish that you have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.